Hey guys, this is Jack with Team Empire, and today I am covering the Thursday DivineZ stream reveals, which is not one, not two, but 7 cards we're going to cover. One of them being the Keter Sanctuary cycle for DivineZ 1, and the others being a cycle of 6 Persona Ride support cards, one for each nation. Very similar to the Persona Ride Dragons. Because we have a lot of cards to cover, I'm probably going to be shorter with some of these descriptions, just because I don't want to make the video run on for too long. But let's get started with the first card, which is the cycle card, Divine Sister Biscotti for Keter Sanctuary. It has the same effect as all the other cycle cards so far. When this card is put from your hand to Guardian Circle, or discarded from your hand to arrive from the right deck, cost Counterblast 1 or Energy Blast 3 and draw a card. And then auto, when this unit is placed in a Guardian Circle, if you Persona Road this turn, cost Counterblast 1 or Energy Blast 3, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card from among them, put it at the top of your deck, and put the rest in the bottom of your deck in any order. If it is not the battle phase, you may call it to Rear Guard Circle instead of putting it at the top of your deck. So this is very similar to something like Spiral Cutie Angel, which does have almost the same effect. Yeah, so this card's a little better than you might actually think because it has the potential to Energy Blast, which for decks that don't use a lot of energy is potentially free. It looks at more cards than Spiral Cutie Angel, so it has more potential to hit targets. On top of that, it allows you to either call it or put it on top of the deck. Spiral Cutie, if you see like two triggers of Spiral Cutie, you have to add one of those to your hand instead of just leaving both on top. With this one, you still have to leave only one on top and bottom deck the rest, but you can still leave like a crit, a heal, or like an over trigger on top of your deck, which is very nice. And if you see nothing but normal units, you can call one of those normal units. So there's differences between this and Spiral Cutie, which I do like. It's not just a straight upgrade over Spiral Cutie, but it has a few more niche effects and niche applications I really like. So I'm definitely going to be playing some of these in my Keter Sanctuary decks in the future. Now we're going to be going over the cycle cards for the 6 nations. The first one is Flame Dancer Orufa. Be ready for me to say if you Persona Road this turn a lot. Auto Rearguard Circle once per turn. When this unit boosts a rearguard, if you Persona Road this turn, cost Counterblast 1, choose one of your units until end of turn. It gets auto, Vanguard Circle, Rearguard Circle. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked. This unit gets critical -2 until end of turn, and increase or decrease its critical to 2. So overall, this is a pretty interesting effect. I don't think it's that amazing. Actually, I don't think it's that amazing for a lot of Dragon Empire decks. And the reason why I say that is because even though the ones that restand rearguards, you don't want to use this card with, since the moment that battle ends, it's going to get -2 crit. You don't really want to use this in Overlord because Overlord will restand, but then he'll get -2. You want to use this card, in my opinion, in decks that have space to play it, first of all, and also don't have access to multi-attack. So the only 2 decks I can really think of off the top of my head are decks like Bob Sargra. So you can put this on one of your rear guards, so Bob's will have a crit, and then that rear guard will have a crit. On top of all the Vilord boosts, it'll be a very big rear guard. Or Triumph Dragon. In fact, all of these support cards, because they rely on you Persona Riding, actually work pretty well in the start deck bosses, because their main effects are tied to energy and not tied to CB. Plus, their CB skills are the ones that serve for Persona Ride. So this actually works pretty well in Triumph Dragon, in my opinion. You can put this behind one of your rear guards and then have 2 attacks every turn that are worth 2 crit. So, but for everything besides those 2 decks, this card is just kind of eh. Next up we have the Dark States one, which is Rainbow Blower. It has the effect, act Rearguard Circle once per turn. If you Persona Road this turn, cost Counterblast 1 and Soul Charge 1. Then choose up to 1 card from your soul, call it to Rearguard Circle, and this unit gets power plus 10k. So it is kind of unfortunate that this unit gets 10k instead of the unit that it calls. So if you have like a card that restands your rear guards, it's not going to double dip on that power. But the fact that it even still gives itself 10k is pretty nice. I mean, 18k booster is pretty decent. But we've seen this effect before in Dark States, and it's just not as incredible this late as it would be earlier on in the game's lifespan. I think it's still a decent card. You could play it in like Lukier, you could play it in Osetta Jest, like I said, just be able to soul charge and get certain pieces out of your soul. You can use this to call like Brainwash Twirler or Gungun Rums. But overall it's a decent card. Honestly, that was the one I had the least thoughts about. Next up we have the Brandgate one, which is one who dims interstellar bodies, who has the effect Auto Record Circle. Once per turn, when this unit boosts a rear guard, if you persona road this turn, costs -1, and until end of that battle, your opponent cannot play blitz orders from their hand, and when they would call cards from their hand to Guardian Circle, they must call 2 or more at the same time. Honestly, this is probably one of the better ones, because specifically for a deck like Eva, because if you call the grade 3 Obscadee, he will have a crit, and then you could just boost with this card, and all of a sudden one of your opponent's PGs can no longer be used. On top of that, it would be very hard to guard Obscadee with 3 cards from your hand, because Eva can still hit really hard and get really big numbers. It's also decent in some other Brandgate decks. At first, I thought Avantgarde could use it, because their numbers get big, but Avantgarde already has the grade 2 set order that also prevents blitz order for the rest of the turn, and that's free, so you wouldn't want to play this in this. You could play it in Heroes, because Heroes do get really big, and they have extra space, so maybe they can actually play this card. But I think besides Eva, this card's not really going to see that much play, especially since you have to Persona Ride. Next up we have the Keter Sanctuary one, which is 4-step Angel, who says active Record Circle once per turn. If you Persona Road this turn, costs -1. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 grade 3 or less unit card from among them, call it Record Circle, and put the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. Until end of that turn, this unit gets power plus 10k. So much like the Dark States one, it gives itself 10k, but I think it's a little better than the Dark States one because it allows you to call a card from your deck, therefore thinning your deck even further. And the bottom deck doesn't really matter in this case, since Keter has so many ways of shuffling the deck, the bottom deck doesn't even really matter at all. I think this card is actually one of the better ones because, again, just calling from deck's really good, allows you to extend your combos, and if you find your Biscotti off of this card, you can actually use Biscotti right after her to get even more advantage. So I think this one's actually pretty decent. It's a shame you have to wait for Persona Ride, but for a deck like maybe the Greya, I feel like this could be a really decent pick. Next up we have the one for Stoicheia, which looks very familiar. We have Vagrant Bloom Dionchien, who has the effect active Record Circle once per turn. If you Persona Road this turn, cost -1. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose to 1 grade 3 or less unit card from among them, call it Record Circle, and discard the rest. Until the end of that turn, this unit gets power plus 10k. So when I first read the Keter one and the Stoicheia one, I was like, these are literally the same thing. The only difference is that this card discards the rest of the cards rather than puts them on the bottom of the deck, which is a little worse. Actually, it's a lot worse. If you see like 3 triggers, you have to call. You don't have to call 1, but if you don't, you mill 3 triggers into your drop zone. To be honest, really the only deck I actually think this card would see play in is like Zorga, just like potentially mill some orders, or Christianos, because Christianos does want to actually mill cards in order to call cards off his effect. But other than that, this card is just kind of like meh, especially for a CB. I don't really feel like it's worth it to dump potentially 3 triggers into your drop zone. I think this is probably one of the worst ones. Then finally, we have the Lyrical Monasterio one, which is Sharing Her Happiness for Alina, who has the effect Auto Record Circle. When this unit boosts a rear guard, if you Persona Road this turn, costs Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1. Choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets the skill Continuous Vanguard Circle. All of your rear guards get power plus 5k until end of turn. At the end of that battle, put this unit at the bottom of your deck. So I feel like this is a pretty strong one. It's very similar to the Color of Your Happiness, or whatever her name is, the one from Festival, where she gives the Vanguard the red text that all your front row gets 5k. So if you stack multiple of this card in a deck that can make 5 attacks, even like Lilfa can make 5 attacks, this could really boost those decks. I don't like how it puts itself on the bottom of the deck, but I do understand, because like being able to bounce this card back to your hand and potentially call it with their rear guard and then boost with it, get another 5k to your entire board, I can imagine that could get pretty out of hand. But I think it's just okay. Again, my overall thoughts on these cards is that they're all just kind of okay. The fact that they have to wait until Persona Ride turn is a little bit worse, since games are pretty fast now, especially for decks that are going second. You don't really want to reliably play a card that has to Persona Ride unless it has some other effect. But I think the option of these cards is always nice. Like I said, more options in the game are always a good thing. So I'm a big fan of these cards, and I hope they kind of keep up cards like this. But with that being said, let me know what y'all think about the Persona Ride girls, and on top of that, let me know your thoughts on Biscotti. I personally think she's going to see play in a lot of Keter Sanctuary decks, including my own. But that's all for this video, guys. Take care. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.